The White House.
Where is Kenteme?
China.
What's the capital of Mongolia?
Ulaanbaatar.
Who is the president of Iceland?
Olafur Ragnar Grimson.
What is the square root of 12 times 820 divided by 3 minus 4?
57.23635285, sir.
Ha! What is my favorite food?
Gary Soak is the pinch of Inkatie.
You are a foolish boy.
Oh.
What is my shoe size?
42.
What time did I wake up this morning?
4:18 a.m. GMT.
Ha! How many rooms do I have in my house?
Oh, sir, you live in a chamber and home.
Leave my class. Leave my class.
Oh.
What primary school did I attend?
In Quatana Experimental 1 and 2.
Foolish boy. Time for mental. You, what day did Ghana get independence?
25th December 1987.
Hey, you think it's Christmas, eh? You, which country colonized Ghana?
Germany, sir.
You, Brazil. You, how many regions are in Ghana?
One, Greater Accra.
Hey! What's the capital of America?
The White House.
Where is Kenteme?
China.
What's the capital of Mongolia?
Ulaanbaatar.
Who is the president of Iceland?
Olafur Ragnar Grimson.
What is the square root of 12 times 820 divided by 3 minus 4?
57.23635285, sir.
Ha! What is my favorite food?
Gary Soak is the pinch of Inkatie.
You are a foolish boy.
Oh.
What is my shoe size?
42.
What time did I wake up this morning?
4:18 a.m. GMT.
Ha! How many rooms do I have in my house?
Oh, sir, you live in a chamber and home.
Leave my class. Leave my class.
Oh.
What primary school did I attend?
In Quatana Experimental 1 and 2.
Foolish boy.
The campus does feel a lot like home.
You know, you don't feel alone with Sunderland. You don't have that feeling because of...
Class, today we will...
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Catalyze workshop. I'm waiting for some more people to join, and then we can start because we are just about 8 on the call. And so we'll wait for about 2 minutes, and if we don't have some more people joining, we can start. I'm trying to get all of us some entertainment ahead of the session. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoy some of these videos.
Class, time.
That the interaction between the kids and the teacher, which is the teacher-pupils relationship, was very low. So I decided to come out with the dance, which will build up this great companionship between the teachers and the kids, and also to build up their self-confidence and to make school attractive to these kids so that they won't miss school. There are a lot of topics which are very difficult to capture. So I'll try to use this dance to come out with easy way for people, you know, play to learn activity, which is entertainment. It's very easy and when you implement in class. The last time I was teaching them multiplication and I realized that they are very difficult to capture. I just added a dance to it. The interaction between the kids and the teacher, which is the teacher-pupils relationship, was very low. So I decided to come out with the dance, which will build up this great companionship between the teachers and the kids, and also to build up their self-confidence and to make school attractive to these kids so that they won't miss school. There are a lot of topics which are very difficult to capture. So I'll try to use this dance to come out with easy way for people, you know, play to learn activity, which is entertainment. It's very easy and when you implement in class. The last time I was teaching them multiplication and I realized that they are very difficult to capture. I just added a dance to it.
Great. It's visible now.
All right. Good evening to you all once again, and kindly permit me to share my screen. I think we've been waiting for a while for some other people to join, but hopefully they are able to join along the line. And so to get started, share my screen. I hope you are, Father, I hope you're able to see my screen.
Crystal clear.
Oh, goodness. Sharing something else. Awesome. Fad, I hope you can see my screen. Keeping Sports Safe Training for and led by Catalyst. Great.
Absolutely.
Great. So welcome to everyone. This is going to be an interactive session, and what it means is that all of us are required to are encouraged to share our thoughts and reflections using the chat box. From time to time, I'll call on one or two people to come off mute and talk to us. So let's make the space ours as usual. Let's get some EduSpot vibe and energy in the room. So by way of getting started, I think we started our Keeping Sports Safe series of Keeping Sports Safe trainings somewhere around, I think, July, when we met learners. And for most of us, you saw us coming to your spot in person to support with the training. For some of you, we observed the sessions. And in August, we indicated that the whole month will focus on training for community members. And we've given out flashcards to aid in the process. And when schools resume for school-based sports and even for some community-based sports, we've also indicated that we will be having the safeguarding or keeping sports safe training among ourselves as catalysts. And so my purpose here or for this session is to walk us through the training slides that we'll be using this month, which is the month of September, for our catalyst training. And I must say that the nature of the slides should help you to deliver your session in person. And I think we've also mentioned that we need a representative from each sport. For Catalyze Academy participants, I think this was mandatory for you to join. But then if you are not even part of the Catalyze Academy, it is expected that by going through this training, you will lead the session with your team in your sport in person. And so this is just to get us to ask questions to get us asking questions and also seeking clarity on areas we might not understand. But then we'll try as much as possible and make it interactive as usual. So yes, by way of understanding the purpose for the whole training that you are going to have, as is required, you should have a purpose or a goal for the training that you are going to have, and you should give some foreknowledge about what the training would cover, isn't it? So the main areas that you are going to target in your Keeping Sports Safe training, and I must also say here that we expect that you should be able to bring in some teachers. For example, if it's a school-based sport, we expect that you think beyond just the volunteer team. And we have indicated that you can reach out to the head teacher and ask that in the first week when school resumes, when most teachers wouldn't be heavily engaged, you can negotiate or bargain or interact with your head teacher to use the professional learning circle or the professional learning community to do these training. And so I think that's a good way to start the term and to look forward to some impact. And in this training, you would explore the fundamentals of our Keeping Sports Safe principles, or what principles undergird our keeping sports safe approach as an organization and as a network. Then we would also explore common instances of abuse, but this time around, I know that we've done that with learners, but then we'll situate that within our own context and experiences as professional teachers and as community educators. Then the third, we look at the relationship between abuse and learner engagement. Then we also explore ways of cultivating a culture of care at the sports. How do we respond to safeguarding concerns? And if someone shares a concern with us, how do we support anyone who has shared a concern with us? And then we have our incident report form, which would require that you review as a team. And then, of course, you open the floor for some question and answers. And then we know the deliverables to submit, which will be assessed as part of certification. Okay. All right. So I just want to open up the space for us to contribute, but then it's likely because of time, you won't find this particular slide in the slides that I'm going to share with you. So after this session, I'm going to share these slides with you, but it's likely you won't find this particular slide because of time. But then I'm going to invite some responses, or I'm going to bring in some voices into the space. And the first thing I want all of us to reflect on is that I want you to reflect on your upbringing. What were your early experiences with learning and discipline like? And how have these shaped your beliefs about teaching and learning? And then, yeah, you can choose which one you want to share. Imagine a student is writing a note about your impact on their life. What would you hope they would say? And how do you believe your upbringing has influenced your teaching style? What aspects of your personality do you bring to club activities? And are you satisfied with your impact on learners? I'll just ask that all of us reflect, and I'm going to call anyone as led. So just get ready. But then I want you to reflect on any of them, and I'm just going to take 2 people to share, or call on 2 people to share with us. So the clock is ticking. I just want you to do some deep retrospective reflection. So cast your mind back. It could be your upbringing. I'm more interested in the personality that you bring into a learning space, and how that your background has influenced that personality that you bring to club activity. And I want you to be as practical as possible in your response. Yeah. Okay. So I am going to call Madam Khadija. Khadija, are you with us? Khadija. Okay, since Khadija is not with us, I will call on Gifty. Gifty, are you with us? Wow, it's very silent here. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, or if you are with us. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me or you are with us, because it's quiet here and I'm just wondering whether you are with us in this training. Okay, I can only see stuff, but I can't see the catalyst. I can't see your thumb. I can't see your thumb, catalyst. I don't know whether you are with us. I can see Solomon. Okay, Solomon, come off mute and share with us. Madam Khadija, I can see your thumb, so I'll come back to you. Solomon.
Yes, please, Mr. Lawrence.
Yes, sir. Please share with us.
Okay. As for me, I come from a family where my father was very strict. A father who believes that the right thing for you is to obey the rules and regulations that he has set for you in the house and everywhere you find yourself in. Good evening. So as growing up, I've also taken it as a way of living my life and also helping my kids to also emulate the same thing that I went through. So for instance, when I go to the EduSpots session or any activity or even the classroom, my concern is for the kids to make sure that You, if you don't know how to do anything, the first thing for you is to make sure that you obey the rules and regulations that have been set, whether by the school authority or by the teacher in the classroom. So I think this is the little that I can say about it.
Wow, Solomon, thank you very much for sharing your personal experience. And I like that you touch on your father's influence in your life, your father's worldview, how he's nurturing of young people. And for him, it was all about just, and you kind of have, taken up that trait. And it informs how you also interact with learners. Thank you very much. That was insightful. I'm going back to Madam Khadija since she gave me a thumbs up, and I know that she's with us in this space.
Okay, I grew up in a family where children are not involved in decision making, and sometimes when even laugh, you need to explain why, the cause of the laughter, because we are not allowed to talk. So I do not want this same thing to happen to my learners. So anytime they are in the sport, I give them that chance. They should explore, they should talk, they should share their views in order not to be in the same shoes that I grew up with.
Wow, interesting. Thank you very much, Madam Khadija, for sharing. So you'd realize that all of us seem to have been initiated or socialized into a particular way of thinking and way of doing things. But most importantly, you realize that you begin to look up to someone, and then that kind of informs the kind of behavior that you also portray. And we must begin to think about what behaviors we demonstrate as teachers, as professionals, and how that learners themselves pick up these traits. Okay, and there's this this model or this theory called the social cognitive theory, and it asserts that the more learners or children observe a model perform, the more likely they are also, the more likely it is for them to also imitate what they see. And so we realize that children watch TV and they begin to also imitate the things they see. A child watches a movie on being a soldier, and then before you realize they are saying they want to be soldiers themselves. And that's because of what they've seen. And it's important for us to always be reflective on our own background, the context in which we grew up, and to question whether the experiences we had is beneficial on others or not. And the more you do that, the more you begin to realign your own perception and to question your own practices. So I felt we must begin the conversation along these lines. Now, so now this is where you actually begin. I'm more likely to forget that there are people there are people knocking to enter because I'm talking, but I'll try as much as possible to get people into the space. So this is where the actual content for the catalyst training starts from, okay? And it starts with a poem by Loris Malaguzzi. I hope I'm getting that right. Pardon me, because I'm not Italian, but he's Italian, and he wrote this beautiful poem. So I just want us to I don't know if wherever I want to see whether you are able to put on your camera. I want to see whether you're able to put on your camera. I want to see whether you're able to put on your camera. I can see Solomon. I can see Fat and myself, but then I can't see the rest. Oh, thank you, Madam Khadija. I can see your beautiful face now. I can see Ernest is here. I'm waiting for about 10 more people to show me their camera, and then I can continue. I can see Gifty. Gifty, you're looking good. Yeah, I can see Carlos. I can see Mr. Kofi Entry, Bono Manso. Okay, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to close your eyes. I can see Rachel. I want you to close your eyes. I'm looking at you, but you don't look at me. Deborah, nice to meet you. Awesome. So what on this slide, what you do is that you ask them to close their eyes and then you read a poem. Okay, but then as I read a poem, I want you to focus on the emotions that this poem provokes. So I want you to listen attentively to this poem. I can see some eyes are still opened though, but then I want all eyes closed. So I want you to think about the emotions that this poem provokes. Okay, now this is how it goes. The child is made of 100. The child has 100 languages, 100 hands, 100 thoughts, 100 ways of thinking, of playing, of speaking, 100, always 100 ways of listening, of marveling, of loving, 100 joys for singing and understanding, 100 worlds to discover, 100 worlds to invent, 100 worlds to dream. The child has 100 languages and 100 more. The school and the culture separates the head from the body. They tell the child to think without hands, to do without head, to listen and not to speak, to understand without joy, to laugh and to marvel, only at Easter and Christmas. They tell the child to discover the world already there, and of the 100, they steal 99. They tell the child that work and play, reality and fantasy, science and imagination, sky and earth, reason and dream are things that do not belong together. And thus they tell the child that the 100 is not there. The child says, no way. Okay, I want you to open your eyes. Maybe you just joined, but I want you to look carefully or read the poem to yourself again. I want you to read a poem to yourself again, and then we can answer. So 30 seconds, I just want you to read the poem carefully to yourself. I want you to read a poem carefully. About 20 seconds more. Ten seconds. All right. Now I'm going to invite some responses. What emotions or thoughts did the poem evoke in you? What emotions or thoughts did the poem evoke in you? What emotions or thoughts did the poem evoke in you? Mr. Kofi Bwedi, please come off mute and share with us.
Oh, okay. Good evening once again. So,
Good evening, sir.
looking at the poem, it has shown me that the child is very dynamic. The child has enough space to capture a lot of things. And if you look at going to the ending of the poem, it seems the school in one way or other is trying to corner the child to some specific ways, which might hinder some of the things that are in the child. So that is how I have seen it. So that's my thought anyway.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I love the use of the word dynamic. The child is dynamic. And thank you. I'm going to Madam Rachel. Madam Rachel, what emotions did this poem evoke in you? I think, Madam, you are muted. Madam, you are muted. You have to come off mute. Madam, I think you are muted. Madam Rachel, you are muted. You would have to unmute yourself. Okay, I think Madam can't hear. I don't know whether she can hear me. Let me go to Carlos. Carlos. Carlos, are you with us? Okay, Deborah. Deborah, are you with us?
Hello.
Yes, Deborah, please take it.
Okay, good evening once again to everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, so I would say as a child, capable of doing so many things. The child is capable of doing many things, but sometimes due to societal other factors, the child is being hindered of certain things, and he or she cannot what he's supposed to do.
Awesome. So I guess you are thinking of yourself, your childhood, your own experiences. There's the many things you wanted to do, but then you were not allowed to do. You wanted to be yourself, right? But then you were not allowed to be yourself to a large extent. Okay, let's look at the next prompt. It says, how does it challenge or affirm your understanding of children's unique ways of learning? I think someone might have touched on that, but let's look at the last one. How might our inability to recognize the 100 languages of learning of learners impact their safety and well-being in all our sports? How might our inability to recognize the 100 languages of learners impact their safety and well-being in all of our sports? Okay. Anyone to come off mute to share? Anyone to come off mute to share?
Network back here,
Okay, Mr. Enoch Tete Young, please come off mute and share with us. Mr. Enoch. Okay, Mr. Solomolate, your hand is up. Please take it.
Okay, good evening to all of us once again.
Good evening.
For me, I think first looking at this posture, my understanding is that learners have various ways of communicating their feelings, emotions, and things happening around them. So if we are not able to read well or make meaning out of how they communicate what they are going through, we will not be able to provide the necessary safe environment for them to pray. Because at the spot, maybe they may have some non-verbal means of communicating other ways. But if we as catalysts are not able to get what they are communicating or they are saying, it will become very difficult for us to provide them with the necessary safeguarding protocols they may receive. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much. And just to add to that, you realize that, I mean, you can't just box everyone. You can't just box everyone to, you can't just put every learner into a box. Okay, for me, that's how I see this. You can't just box everyone and want and expect that every learner would put on a certain fashion or be fashioned to look in a particular way that suits your own personality and your own, worldview. You see, and at the beginning of the conversation, when we were sharing our personal stories, Solomon mentioned that, that is how he sees things. Everyone must be obedient. But then in most cases, there are learners who just want to be all over the place, right? And our perspective and our worldview sometimes might blind or veil our ability to know the unique capacity or capabilities that every child comes into the learning space with. And the more you don't reflect as a professional, as a teacher, on your on your worldview or your philosophy, the more you tend to believe that every learner must look like you. Every learner must have a mirror or a reflection of your perception of discipline, your perception of what it means to, to be obedient. But and that in most cases, makes it difficult for us to manage diverse behaviors in the learning space. And so the purpose of this particular slide is to get all the catalysts reflecting on the unique capacity or capabilities that the learners come into your sport with. Okay, and if it's a school-based sport, here you are looking at a school with about 200 children, all of them coming from different backgrounds. They are coming from different homes. They have different parents. They have different talents. They have different, ways of doing things. And if we don't appreciate the 100 languages that children come into our learning space with, we will always want them to toe a particular line that will lead to some forms of abuse. So here, after you have gone through this particular slide with the participants, and after you've done this exercise with them, you establish that our role as catalysts and teachers in keeping the sport safe is to be attuned to the unique backgrounds of learners. That's the most important thing, and that has been underlined and highlighted in red so that we all get to appreciate the impulse of that particular slide. Okay, let's continue. Then here you just once you have projected your slide here, you just, as a facilitator, you just say that EduSpot believes that everyone we come into contact with, regardless of age, gender identity, disability, sexual orientation, faith, or ethnic origin, has the right to be protected from all forms of harm, abuse, harassment, neglect, and exploitation. And I'm sure you are familiar with some of these things if you were in the trainings with the learners. So here you just don't waste enough time. You don't waste much time, sorry. You just establish this as some sort of fundamental principle and the organization's position, and then you build on that to get a conversation started. So the question then is, what are safeguarding principles? Here we have an agree or disagree activity. You realize that we have time slots on the slide, so you should have someone who will be monitoring when it comes to time, because they are teachers, and drawing from my experience as a teacher, I realized that professional learning circles are normally held around, I think, getting to close. I think normally is the last period, and I'm sure for some schools it might differ, but you don't want to stretch it, so you want to be strict with time. So we are going to do this activity, and I want you to use the chat box for this activity, and then after that we'll see how it goes. But then if you are doing it in the space, in an actual space, this is a virtual space, but if you are doing it in an actual space, you ask those who agree to move to the right, and then you ask those who disagree to move to the left. Okay, you ask those who agree to move to the right, and then so it should be embodied. You should make good use of the space. You should get the teachers on their feet. They shouldn't be seated, create a lively atmosphere for yourselves as teachers. So let's get started. Statement 1, I'm going to call someone to read for us. Oh, sorry, I have minimized my, because I'm looking for where your faces are. Awesome, your faces are here. All right. I'm going to call on, Muniru is smiling. It means he wants to read the first statement for us. Muniru, please read the first statement for us. I like your smile. Thank you for giving me some morale when all cameras are off.
Yeah, statement 1. Sometimes it's acceptable to prioritize the needs of individual of the community over the individual needs of a child if it benefits everyone in the long run.
Awesome, thank you. So if you agree or disagree, please put it in the chat box in 20 seconds. Sometimes, where is my chat box? Let me go into my chat box. Let me go into my chat box. I can see only one person. Okay, I think people are thinking about it. Okay. Sometimes it's acceptable to prioritize the needs of the community over the individual needs of a child if it benefits everyone in the long run. I think I should be seeing over 20 responses in the chat box, but I have so far seen about, I can't count up to 10. I can't count up to 10 in the chat box, but we are more than. Great. You see them popping up. I can't see Asana's response. I can't see Carlos's response. I can't see Gifty Advice in your response. Awesome. I'm going to call on someone to share why they agree or disagree with us. Enoch, please come off mute and share with us. Why do you think this statement is true? So to agree is to say that sometimes it's acceptable to prioritize the needs of the community over the individual needs of a child if it benefits everyone in the long run. Enoch, please come and add some voice to your response for us.
Okay, good evening to everyone.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Go ahead.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anything that all the community accept, it means it is good to everybody in the community. And looking at the question.
Okay. Thank you, Enoch, for sharing. So Enoch believes that anything the community shares is good, and it will benefit the child. Okay, I'm going to take another person. That means that he agrees with the statement, right? Okay, I'm going to take another person who disagrees. And here I want to call on Cynthia. Cynthia disagrees. Cynthia.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
well,
Cynthia.
I disagree because when you look at it on the larger picture, it sounds like a great idea. But sometimes it's benefiting the child in the long run does not mean that the final decision might favor the child. So that is why I disagree.
Interesting. So we have quite a number of people disagreeing. I won't give the answer now. The answer is on the next slide. So let's take the second statement. Franklin, please read the second statement for us. Then we'll come back. Please read the second statement for us. Franklin, you are muted. You are muted, Franklin.
Okay. Can you hear from me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Take it.
Okay. If a child shares something personal with you that could affect their safety, it is important to discuss it with all staff members to make sure everyone is aware and can help.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Franklin. Please put your responses in the chat box. Let's go again. This time around, to separate agree from disagree, say agree one, agree two, disagree two, so that I can know that you are with us and you are on track. We are I want you to add a number, so that I know that. Good. Great. Awesome. 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 I can see a deluge in the chat box. Yes. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Khadija. Thank you, Enoch. Is that all? Kofi, I have not seen yours. Awesome. Awesome. Interesting. Okay. Let's dissect this one. If a child says something, shares something personal with you that could affect their safety, it's important to discuss it with all staff members to make sure everyone is aware and can help. Okay, let's go to the chat box. Did anyone agree? Solomon, you agree? Solomon, take it.
Okay, thank you. I believe that since the child has shared his or her problem with you, automatically the child is looking for solution. Although hello.
Solomon, take it. I think someone is not muted. Madam Khadija, please mute yourself. Kindly mute yourself. Kindly mute yourself. Okay, Solomon, please continue.
As I was saying, since the child has already shared the problem that he or she is facing with you, automatically he or she needs solution to make sure that that problem is being solved. Although it will affect his safety when you let it out to other people, but within your members or within the your police catalyst, I believe that it's important for you. Pardon me, I'm standing on the roadside. That's why there's a lot of
That's fine.
Like
Thank you very much, Solomon. Let me take another person because of time. Thank you, Solomon, for sharing. So Solomon believes that at least once the child has shared something with you, it's good for you to just go out there and share with someone else. Okay, let me take someone else who disagrees. Disagree too. Oh, there are quite a number of people who actually disagree to this statement. Agree to this statement. Wow. Ernest disagrees. Ernest.
Hello, please, can you hear me? Good evening once again.
Loud and clear. Good evening.
Okay. So looking at the statement itself,
it's very clear that the child has shared his or her problem with you personally. So once it is personal, though the child is looking forward to, let's say, seeing a change or to have the problem solved for him or her, once the child has shared the problem with you personal, you make sure you tackle it very personal. You don't have to share it with any other. Though you have to seek ideas, but you must use a means which will not let the problem of the child be known to the other colleagues. Though you use very, let's say, good means or better means to solicit ideas, which you, let's say, add up to your idea to solve the problem. So I strongly disagree with you sharing a problem share with you to other colleagues from a child.
Awesome. Let's hold our guns and let's take the third statement. We'll come back and then see what the actual responses are in line with EduSpots principles. Let's take the third statement. Ernest, on that note, please read the third statement for us.
When investigating an allegation, it's okay to make assumptions if the evidence is unclear, as long as you have good intentions and want to protect the child.
Fantastic. Agree or disagree 3. Please put it in the chat box. Agree 3, disagree 3. I can see 2, only 2 people. I'm waiting. I know people are thinking about this deeply. Can see Franklin is saying NS is still sharing and involving people. Okay. I can see about 5 people out of 21. I should take myself out so that it will be 20, right? Okay. Quite a number. Okay, we still have people agreeing and disagreeing. Okay. Asana, it's been a long time. Come off mute and share with us. Why do you disagree with the statement? Asana, come off mute and share with us.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I disagree.
Yes, go ahead. You are free to disagree. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Because the assumptions are unclear. So why agree or make assumptions with it if later on problems might be caused?
Awesome. So you believe, you disagree with the statements that you shouldn't make assumptions. That's the case, right? Okay, let's take someone who agrees. Let's take someone who agrees. Quite a number of people agree. Entry Kofi, entry Kofi, entry Kofi, entry Kofi, entry Kofi. Entry Kofi. Okay, if entry can't hear us, I'll go to Franklin.
Okay, if you can hear me.
Yes, please, loud and clear. Take it.
Yes, the reason I agree is that when you are doing investigation, it's not 100% assured. So where you find the evidence unclear, you need to come out with some assumptions, and that will prompt you to ask questions and then have some idea of whatever you are investigating. Because especially if you have the good intention of whatever you are saying that to protect the child, you assume something like this could possibly happen to her, but the evidence is not so clear for you to be firm on your decision.
Wow. Interesting. Thank you very much. That's a deep reflection. Let's take the last one. Let's take the last one. Asana, please read the last one for us. Asana, please read the last statement for us.
Statement 4. In a complex safeguarding cases, it's often best for EduSpots to take full control to avoid confusion and ensure a swift resolution.
Awesome. Thank you. Agree 4, disagree 4. Please, let's go. Agree 4, disagree 4. Daniel, please come off mute and share with us. Daniel, agree 4, disagree 4. Daniel, Dadrin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, I disagree with that because EduSpot is working with the community and you don't take critical decisions for the people. You need to collaborate enough for us to take critical decisions because safeguarding is a collective issue. It does not mean one person should take a decision for the other people, but you need to come together to make sure that our children are safe at the various spots. This is the reason why I disagree with that.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Daniel. I can see only one person seems to have agreed to this statement. I think quite a number of people disagree. Do we have anyone agreeing? So all of us disagree to this statement. Okay, all of us disagree. Okay, that's interesting. So it means we are on the same page here. Now, after you have done, okay, let me see. The last one is the person agreeing. Okay, disagree. Awesome. So in your session, once you have done this activity, you move on to now, discuss what are the actual safeguarding principles for EduSpots. You see, so you might all have your own principles, you might all have your own philosophy, but at the end of the day, EduSpots has her own principles that we expect you to follow. And you want to use this activity to establish it for everyone to understand. So the first statement, I think some people need to be muted. Some people need to be muted. Madam Khadija, I think you have to be muted. Madam Khadija. Okay, thank you. All right. So now after you have done this activity, so the first one, per the statements, and of course, you are free to hold your own opinion or you are free to have your own views on this. But in line with EduSpots principles, we disagree with the statements that sometimes it's acceptable to prioritize the needs of the community over the individual needs of a child if it benefits everyone in the long run. No. At EduSpots, we believe that you must always put the best interest of the child first. So the question you ask yourself is that, is this, whatever happening, is it in the best interest of the child? That is the first safeguarding principle. The child comes first. And that is in line with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. That is our principle. So in any safeguarding situation, we don't want to say that because this is the community's view, because this is the community's principle, because this is the community's philosophy. What matters to us is that a child's right must be protected at all costs. And insofar as that child's interest has not come first, the community has no right to impose whatever. So far as it abuses the right of the child, let me be clear on that. So the first principle is that it must be in the best interest of the child. Then the second statement, which had to do with whether or not you are supposed to share something personal that a child has shared with you, we also disagree with that statement because we believe that all information shared by a child private, you must keep all information shared by a child private and secure. And the only exception you can make to that is when you share the details with a keeping spot safe officer who can protect the child and ensure that their trust and safety throughout the process. Because what if you share with someone and that person actually you are sharing with might be the culprit? So we believe that even though there is some level of sharing, and I think Franklin made mention of that, even though there is some level of sharing, the principle there is to what extent are you able to share with the right people? So you don't just go to the staff seaman and begin to open up and say that, oh, this child came to me and reported that, they have been sexually abused by this teacher. You don't do that. Or they have been sexually abused by this, student. You don't do that. There should be some element of confidentiality because, in Ghana, there's a popular saying that when you share something with your neighbor, you have actually broadcasted it to Peace FM. And before you realize it is all over the place. And so when it comes to safeguarding and the principle we believe in, we believe that there must be some element of confidentiality And confidentiality here means you know who to tell and at what point in time. Okay, so you don't just go about broadcasting to everyone that this is what has happened, and you must establish that in your meeting. Then the third statement that had to do with and making assumptions. Okay, when you are just making assumptions, we believe that by principle there should be some element of transparency, so you don't make assumptions, because your assumptions cannot be justified. It's your assumptions. So you report incidents of abuse, or you pass them on based on the factual reports that you have received. If the child said A, you must report A. If the child says B, you must report B. You don't impose your assumptions, or your perceptions on what report you have received. You stick to the facts, you verify information, okay, and you document or ensure that whatever you are saying on the report is nothing but the truth and the whole truth. You don't add layers of what you perceive. You don't add subjective interpretations to the statements that you write. If it's A, and that's why when you go to the police station, they tell you write your own statement, because we don't want to make interpretations on the data. And here, if there's someone who is a legal expert amongst us, that person can just explain further to us why this is so. But this is what EduSpot believe in, and that's a principle. A principle is a guiding, rule that ensures that all of us are conditioned to toe a certain line. Then the last statement on, the last statement had to do with sensitivity. So it had to do with, I think I might have forgotten the last statement. Let me try and see whether I can recall that quickly. Yeah, yes. The last statement had to do with whether or not EduSpots will be the one solely in charge of handling safeguarding issues. And I think Daniel was right there. So EduSpot works with other organizations. We don't work alone. We are not an island. Okay. So we understand sensitivity when it comes to issues. So all reports that we receive, we handle with care and respect. Okay, and we know which agencies we must involve in the process. Okay, and here we approach every step with compassion and thoughtfulness. And we believe that as you receive a report, and we'll get to talk more about this, but as you receive a report, the principle is that you must apply some sort of sensitivity. And you realize that sensitivity cuts across the 4 statements we explored. It cuts across confidentiality, because if you are sensitive, you know who to talk to. If you are sensitive, you know whether or not the incident is in the best interest of the child, and you know when to disclose it. Now, the last principle, so don't forget the principles. The last principle is collaboration. And that means that we work with other agencies. We are not an island. We work with the police, we work with health professionals, we work with the Ghana Fire Service, which institution is an emergency service institution. So sometimes when someone falls into a pit, you might call the police, but the job, it's actually the job of the Ghana Fire Service to come to rescue, because they actually deal with rescue. So all the agencies, we work with them to ensure that we are having the interest of the child first. So please don't forget the principles: best interest of the child, confidentiality, transparency, sensitivity, and collaboration. And I'm sure that most of the things we have just discussed, will pop up in the conversations that you have. But at the end of the day, make sure that it is entrenched in your discussion that these are the principles underlying EduSpots work. All right. 2, let's look at the second activity. And here we are going to do this quickly, but then let me try and see whether I can see some faces before we take this. Yeah. Okay. So before we continue, for this side of the training, you want to first establish, and here you are looking at yourselves as teachers, okay, or as professionals. So I want you to put in the chat box examples of some of the common abuses you see in your sports as teachers. And here you are thinking of yourselves as people involved in that process, not just thinking about only the learners. You are thinking of, I am involved in the process. other teachers are involved. So I want you to think systemically, like systems, okay? Not just about yourself or only the learners. In your sport as a whole, even in the community, what are some of the common instances of abuse that you see? Please, let's put some things in the chat box, then we can continue. I can see only one response so far. I can see only one response so far. I can see about one, I can see only 4 people have responded. Please, I want to feel your energy in the space. Please, I want you to be specific, okay? When you say emotional abuse, what do you mean by that? I want you to be specific in your responses. I want you to just be clean in your, shouting at a child. Yes, that is just plain as it is. So I just want you to break it down. I can see some responses coming. I hope we are reflecting. And I'll give some 30 more minutes and then we can continue. Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. So let's look at the next slide, okay? Let's look at the next slide. Let's look at the next slide. Awesome. So you see, what we just did at the beginning of the session is that we just reflected. Okay, we just reflected. So in this particular area, in this area of the session, kneeling down, that's nice. Awesome. I like your sincerity. I've been a teacher before, so you know, we've all been there. And we've been initiated into a particular system. So let's just be honest with ourselves. And that's basically what this session is supposed to do. It's supposed to get all teachers, if it's a school-based sport, or all catalysts, to be honest with themselves. Okay, no polishing. We just want to be honest with ourselves. So we just did the reflection activity. It's just 10 minutes. Then we do the rating. So the rating, we come to the next slide. And on the next slide, we have provided some common examples of abuse. And so here, I just want us to do this quick poll. The first one, I want you to put your response in the chat box. Hitting, slapping, or caning. How often do you see this at the spot? Never seen it, rarely seen it, sometimes seen it, often seen it, very common. I want you to just, because you can't type, if it is very common, put in 5. If it is often seen, put in 4. If it is sometimes seen, put in 3. If it is rarely seen, put in 2. If it is never seen, put in 1. I'm going back to the chat box. Hitting, slapping, or caning. I want us to be sincere with ourselves, okay? Madam Khadija said 1, which means it never happens at a spot. If you put in 1, it means it never happens. If you put in 5, it means it's very common. Happens. Awesome. 2. Okay. Let's take the next one. Let's take the next one. Let's take the next one. Insulting, threatening, and shaming. Insulting, threatening, and shaming. I want you to use an emoji. I want you to use an emoji to grade this. If it's very common, put in a sad emoji. If it is never seen, if it is never seen, put in a happy emoji. If it is very common, put in a sad emoji. Let's go. I want to see the chat box. And please do this in the chat box. John Bosco means it's very common. Okay. Mr. Solomon, I can see you smiling. Daniel, I can see you smiling. So insulting, threatening, and shaming is very common. I can see someone is sad. Oh. Oh, 1. Okay. So if you laugh or if you are smiling, it means that it is never in your spot. If it is very common, it means Oh, so a lot of people in their sports, they don't shame anyone, they don't insult anyone. That is interesting. Okay, let's continue. Let's look at the third one, isolation or denial of participation. This time I want you to write, if it is very common, write very common. If it is, I just want you to write exactly what is on the scale for this one, the third one. I want you to type exactly what is on the scale, which addresses your situation. Wow, the chat box, only 2 people have responded to this one. Isolation or denial of participation. Wow, Madam Janet said never done in Ameya sports. Enoch said rarely, but it happens. I want to see more. Okay, often it's a concern. Never, Deborah, never. Okay, thank you very much for being honest. So this is what this particular session is supposed to achieve. It is supposed to get all the teachers and the participants in the training to be honest with themselves. And here, we don't want you to exempt yourself as a teacher, exempt your own practices as a teacher. We don't want you. So this training is for the teachers to reflect. And here we want every one of you to be honest with yourself. To what intent? Let's go back to the previous slide. To the intent that you will discuss. So after you have reflected, you rate, and then you discuss. Be ready to share and discuss your observations with the group. So here I could ask that, why do you think, for example, you could call Madam Janet and say, Madam Janet, it's never done in our, Madam Janet says it's never done in our male sport. Let me pick someone and let me see whether the person can share something with us. Okay, Daniel, you said rarely, but happens. Can you share with us? I think that's the third one. Daniel, if you are with us. Daniel, are you with us? Because of time.
I'm with you.
Yes, please share with us. We are just modeling out how we want the session to look like in practice. So you mentioned that it's rarely, but happens. So here you want to share with everyone. So assuming that this is your training, okay? Share with us based on the situation in your sports, why this is your chosen scale. Okay, I don't know, Daniel, I don't know whether you are with us.
So it was a little noisy. Okay.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes. I think choosing this topic, particular topic, that the safeguarding, and discussing with our catalyst, I'll make it practical in such a way that they will feel
Daniel,
it.
what we want you to respond to is that, so here in this part of the session, you have done the poll, okay? And all of you have chosen which ones you think. So here, maybe 1 or 2 people can just share why they chose the answers they chose. So we just want you to share with us why you chose the answers you chose based on the situation in your sport.
Okay. For example, the first one, I chose 3 for the physical abuse. Because of the safe schools.
Okay.
Lashing and caning has reduced drastically in our school. But notwithstanding, we are doing 0 caning. No. Sometimes we cane, but not as often. So in our sports, most of our sessions we do it after school.
Okay.
And the sport is open during school days or school hours. Okay. And we often hardly see teachers cane, but learners abuse their colleagues. Sometimes they knock them. They knock them during sport visits. And secondly, I chose.
No, Daniel, thank you. Yeah. Daniel, thank you very much. Daniel, thank you. Let me take another person. Muniru just came on the camera, so I think he wants to talk. So Muniru, look at the last one, connect. think about how these patterns impact your sports environment and how fostering a culture of care can address them. Okay, so here you don't just do the skill. You don't just identify the common instances of abuse. That is not the impulse of the whole session or the whole activity. Otherwise, it won't lead to any substantive change. What we want you to do now is that we want you to think of how to connect that to fostering a culture of care. Okay, and how that impacts your sports environment. So based on the poll, based on the outcomes in the training and the level of your sincerity as catalyst, then you can begin to have insightful conversation. So I really encourage that don't take this session lightly, because it has the potential to really bring a paradigm shift, especially if you are doing this for teachers, because at the time where you connect, then you begin to think, and that takes us to our next slide, okay, where you now begin to explore how the connection between abuse and learner engagement at your sports. Okay, so how can abuse affect, or how can it influence learner engagement at your sports? So when we talk about learner engagement, what does it mean? What does learner engagement mean to you? And how do you tell whether learners are engaged or not? So here I'm going to take reflections from you. What does learner engagement mean to you? So here you ask yourself as teachers, what tells me, or what is an indicator that a learner is engaged in a lesson or in my class or in my club session? And I know all of us are experienced teachers here. So I'll go to Madam Janet, who is, I don't know whether Madam Janet is still with us. I think Madam Janet dropped off.
Yes, please, I'm with you, but
no, nice.
I'm with you, but I'm in a moving car.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Adom Sahine, it's been a long time I heard your voice. Honorable, please come off mute and share with us. As an educator, what is an indicator that a learner is engaged in a lesson? Honorable, are you with us? Okay. I can't get it. I'm not getting any feedback. Okay, Gifty. Yes, please share with us. From your experience in the club, what makes you feel that the learners are really engaged? At what point? What is the indicator for you?
Okay, so the first point I would say that you even knowing the name of the learner and the learner knowing your name shows that the learner is being involved in the activities.
Awesome.
Because you be calling the learner's name and you give out a work to the learner, he or she returns to you. It gives that bond, and it means the child is participating in the activities.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Gifty, for sharing. So for you, it's all about knowing their names, using their names to call them instead of using, some weird or strange labels, right? Okay, Muniru, please go ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much for volunteering to share. Muniru, please, are you with us? Okay, John Bosco, thank you. John Bosco, it's good to have you on the call.
Okay. I do so through their level of engagement and the feedback that they give. Feedback that I receive from them and how they participate.
Okay, so in that feedback, what exactly do you look out for in that feedback?
Well, whether their feedback aligns with what you also want them to achieve.
Okay, that gives an indication that they are engaged. Awesome. Okay, because of time, let's just continue. Thank you all for sharing. So when we talk about learner engagement, we are talking about whether the learners feel connected. Okay, there should be some connection, valued and motivated to participate actively in club activities. And here, I want you to look at the emotional engagement of the learners. You see, when you go back to the love languages, the the 100, did I say love languages? The 100 languages of the child. The 100 languages of the child. When you go back to that poem, it says something phenomenal. It says that the school separates the head from the body. Now, I want you to think about a child who is hungry. You realize that that child will not pay attention in class. So learner engagement, to a large extent, is about the connection. That is how we see it at EduSpots, and that's how we want to see it. Yeah, someone said I use the co-call strategy to get learners engaged. So that is how we see it in EduSpots. When learners are connected, valued, and motivated to participate actively in club activities. And I want to emphasize on the emotional connection that the learners have for what they are doing. When they are all excited, when they are happy, when they are motivated, when you use words, positive framing, when a learner does something good, you use good job, great job, amazing. I think that was a good answer. That is a great answer. That is fantastic. That is superb. There should be some emotional connection in whatever thing they are doing, in whatever task that you give to them. They shouldn't be learning because you have asked them to do it. They should be learning because they find value in what they are doing, and they believe it's something that will be beneficial to them. That is what learner engagement to us is all about. And here, the purpose of this slide is for you to establish the connection between abuse, the common instances of abuse, and how that will affect learner engagement at your spot. Okay, so we don't have time to go through all, but then we have given the main points. So excitement and curiosity, belonging and connection, confidence and self-efficacy, joy and satisfaction. So you establish the connection between an environment that is free from abuse and how that will inform learner engagement, and an environment that is full of abuse and how that will affect learner engagement. Let's look at the next slide. So if the environment is full of abuse, there is no care, you don't use any motivations, you don't use any kind words or statement that motivates them, and you are all, let's assume that in that environment there are instances of physical abuse, verbal abuse, insults, one insult after the other, shouting and screaming on them, always coming up with a strong personality in the learning space. Let's look at what happens. It stifles creativity. It discourages risk-taking because the learners are scared that they might make a mistake and the teacher will lash them. It decreases their motivation and erodes trust because you don't give them that autonomy to be who they are. And it takes us back to the 100 languages we spoke about. So here you establish the relationship between abuse and how that will affect your club activities at the spot. Without a clear understanding of this relationship, these are the ways that learner engagements will be affected. Awesome. Now now here on this slide, you are wrapping up with your session. So when you receive a safeguarding concern, how would you respond? When you receive a safeguarding concern, how would you respond? Now, I want to see whether we are following this conversation, and I'm going to gauge that with some of the slides we have done already. So I want a couple of people to share. When a safeguarding concern is brought to you, how would you respond? How would you respond? How would you respond? Anyone to volunteer? Anyone to volunteer? How would you respond to a safeguarding concern? Frank says, I will investigate. Okay, thank you. Okay, I want more responses, but I'm not getting any response. Ernest. I've not heard from Carlos today. Carlos, are you with us? Carlos.
Hello.
Carlos, can you share with us one strategy that you use to address a safeguarding concern, or you used to respond to a safeguarding concern?
Okay, so first of all, after it has been reported to me. Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Ernest. Carlos, sorry.
Oh, okay. So you mean the strategy that I will use, right?
Yes, how will you respond in any instance of receiving a report?
Okay, then I think I will have to report to the stakeholders in the of the library. I mean the library committee.
All right.
If it's necessary for me to further report to the EduSpots staff too, I will do so.
All right. Thank you very much, Carlos. Mr. Muniru, do you want to respond? I can see your hand is up, but I don't know whether you want to respond. Okay. Let's continue because I think you are muted. If you are talking, then you are muted, Mr. Muniru.
Yes, sir. Hello. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I said I first listen carefully, and then I acknowledge and then thank. That is right. Recognize the person's courage in sharing the same. Thank you. I get it. To understand the situation, including what, where, and also
awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much, Muniru. Thank you. So, yes, thank you. So Carlos says he will just go and respond. Muniru says he will first thank them for bringing the issue to their attention. And then he will, I've seen that someone has also put in the chat box that they will investigate further and you know, explore further why. But then, so the purpose of this side of the session is for you to understand how do you respond to a safeguarding concern? Okay. How do you respond to a safeguarding concern? So let's do the story fragments and then we can continue. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to call you to the first. So here, this is how you do the session here. It's called a story fragment. So you ask the first participant to read the first fragment, the second will read, the third will read, and the fourth will read. So I'm going to call someone to start for us. Adom Sahene, I can see you've put something in the chat box. Can you read the first fragment for us? The first story fragment. Can you please read the first fragment for us? If you are able to.
Yeah, during a club session, Elena, Sarah, seems unusually quiet and withdrawn. You notice she hasn't been participating as enthusiastically as she normally does.
Thank you very much. Another person should read the second one for us. Another person should read the second fragment. Please take it.
Hello.
John, please take it.
Hello, Yamfo.
Yamfo, please take it. Sorry.
Later during the break, Sarah's friend approaches you and says, Sarah told me something yesterday that made me worried.
Awesome. Thank you very much. The next person, another person should take it. So because of time, let me continue because of time. So this is how it works. Okay. You let other people read, and then after that, you just discuss what does this story reveal about the different ways a safeguarding concern might be brought to your attention. Okay, so here the fragments are meant to expose the different ways. So if you look at the story carefully, you realize that each fragment tells a different way that a safeguarding concern will be brought to your attention. So the first one, during a club session, the learner Sarah seems unusually quiet and withdrawn. You notice she hasn't been participating as enthusiastically as she normally does. Can anyone tell me how a safeguarding concern is being brought to the catalyst's attention in the first fragment? In the first fragment. How is a safeguarding concern being brought to the catalyst's attention? Mr. Solomon.
Yeah, my observation is that I perceive the safeguarding concern brought through the change in behavior or change in mood or change in attitude of the learner. So once you observe a change in attitude of the learner towards work, you observe something might not be going right. Thank you.
So the first one, you realize that there is an observation. So it means that here you establish in your session that a safeguarding concern can be brought to your attention by observation. Let's look at the second fragment and then we can continue. Later during break, Sarah's friend approaches you and says, Sarah told me something yesterday that made me worried. Solomon, how do you think a safeguarding concern is being brought to your attention in the second fragment? Solomon.
Okay, in the second one, I think it came to my notice that somebody told me. So being told about someone's problem at the spot.
Great. So observation, someone can also tell you. So in this session, that's basically what you do. You just read a fragment and then you don't show the next slide, because when you show the next slide, it won't be interesting. So you just show this slide and then you get yourselves discussing and decoding the various ways in which safeguarding concerns can be brought to one's attention. Okay. And then after you have done that, you then look at the next slide. So the first fragment is observation. The second fragment is that a third party, so another person, can bring a safeguarding concern to your attention. Then direct disclosure, the person or victim can come directly to you and share the concern. And then the last one is indirect disclosure. Sometimes you may overhear something that hints as a safeguarding concern. Okay, so these are the different ways safeguarding concern might be brought to your attention. And you use the story fragments to draw out responses. You don't just show the slide and discuss and go your way. Then you move on to the next one. So once you have received a safeguarding concern, what are some of the practical ways you will respond? The first one is to keep calm. Okay, so here the facilitator, after you have done the discussion, here the facilitator can just quickly walk the participants through. So you keep calm, you give full attention. In keeping calm, you don't just react. I'm sure most of us are professional teachers, so all of us, and so we understand some of these things. You reassure the learner that this is something I will act upon, okay? And here, don't forget we mentioned trust. So you assure them that you will ensure that the right thing will be done, okay? And then you don't promise complete confidentiality. As we said during the principles, that you must know who to tell. So you have to inform the learners that this is what you have told me, but then I will inform the keeping spot safe officer. For example, in your training, you might have people in there who are not the keeping spot safe of personnel, or who are not the individuals in charge, or if it's a school, they are not the girl child coordinator, or so and so on and so forth. So you must assure the victim that you won't tell anyone, but you will tell the right person so that the right thing will be done. Okay. So don't promise complete confidentiality. Then you document the concern, as Edu said. You report exactly what was said. Then you follow the keeping spot safe protocol. Who should you report to? You stay neutral. You don't make assumptions, as we have already said in the principles. And then you do not delay in the response. Immediately, once you have understood the process, you just know who to report to. Okay, then you thank them. Thank you very much for sharing this concern with me. This is what I would do. I would inform the right person and then we'll act on it. And explain that you will now take responsibility in leading the management of this concern. So in this part of the slide, all you do is that you just, as a facilitator, you explain what exactly will be done, okay, to show concern. So you thank them, you remind them of confidentiality. You ensure that you have their contact details. If it's a parent that has reported a concern, you take their contact details. And then after the initial report, you follow up. Very important. Sometimes we receive concerns and we don't follow up to, for example, if a child reports that someone has abused me and, they've been coming for club activities, all of a sudden they are not showing up. They reported to you several times. You don't act upon it. And you don't also follow up with them to even ensure that now, whether they are being bullied, whether it's been stopped or not, they are likely not to report anything to you again because they don't trust you. So it's important that you follow up with them to see how they are doing anytime you receive a safeguarding concern. John, I think you have a question. I think I should give you the opportunity to ask your question.
Yes, please. Please go. Let's get back to the slide that talks about you not assuring the
complete confidentiality.
Yeah. So I just have a little problem with that one, and my problem is, don't you think that in the near future the learner might feel insecure to report another issue to you. Maybe at times they may feel that you keep their names and the details to yourself, where you go and put the investigations for yourself. So why the need not to promise the learner of a complete confidentiality?
Awesome. Thank you very much for your question. I mean, so you'd realize that here the caveat is that you assure the learner that you will tell the right person who will be able to act upon the situation. Okay, so here you have to think of it broadly. For example, in your sport, you have a senior high school student who is a catalyst. That person might not be a professional teacher or might not be the keeping sport safe officer, even though they have the training. They may also not have the requisite skill at that point in time to be able to handle the situation fully. It's important that they assure the learner who has given them who has reported the situation to them that this is what you have told me. I think I will inform whoever is the keeping sport safe officer at the sport and will act upon it accordingly. Now, it's important that in confidentiality, you don't forget the principle of sensitivity. Okay, the principle of sensitivity. And I don't know whether I'm getting your question right, but you ensure that even though you assure them of confidentiality, you also let them know that you inform the right person. I think that is the caveat. I don't know whether that answers your question. John Bosco.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I don't know if anyone has any reflection to add on this. Anyone has a reflection to add here? Okay, if we are good to go, then I think.
Hello.
Yeah, please take it.
Hello.
Yes, Franklin.
Yes. What I want to add to yours is that, you see, if my colleague is using a complete confidentiality, then it means it could be one person and that is all. But in a situation like this, one person can start with the process and then getting to the latter part, when it is above his jurisdiction, you have to consult it to with another person. And then, as you said, you need to also create that confidentiality and then the trust that the child is having in you to the other person that this is the situation. So you don't need to extend it to other people and so on. Though we believe that the next step is for that person to take over and then do the justice for whatever the case is. So you can't have complete or total confidentiality in some cases.
Awesome. Thank you very much for adding your voice to that. So John, the most important thing is that you assure the learner that there is someone who you can talk to. Okay, for example, if they've informed you that they've gone through some terrible situation, and you know that this is a situation that the police must get involved, you must give them that assurance, because in line with EduSpots principles, because we work with institutions, if it's something that the EduSpots safeguarding officer must know, you must give them that assurance that even though this is something sensitive you have told me. For example, that child might come to you scared, okay, that a teacher or an adult in the community has done something to them. You can't just say that, okay, I won't tell anyone. No, you must. What if you break their trust because you told them that you won't tell anyone, and then before you realize they've been summoned to come to, they've been summoned to speak to someone else. Okay, they'll rather get scared. But from the onset, you must establish that this is something you have told me, but I'll tell the right person, and we are going to act on it. All right. So you document the consent. Okay, so we've touched on all these. Then here you just for this slide, you just walk through, and then you establish that if someone is in immediate danger, or if the incident is not directly related to EduSpots activity, the right authority must be informed, because we believe that not every instance of abuse is directly related to our work, and we are particular about those that are directly related to our work. But as a catalyst, you are an ambassador in your community. So if any instance of abuse takes place, you must inform the right authority. Solomon, your hand is up.
Yes, please.
Yes, Solomon.
A child tells you something that will put the child into trouble. We should not also make sure that you don't expose or say whatever that child has told you to someone in terms of confidentiality.
But
Yes.
here's a case that you said the child has told you something. What about if that thing that to put the child into trouble and you are assuring the child that you are going to give it or tell it to the right person for the necessary action to be taken? Don't you think it also put the child into the trouble?
Okay, so if I'm getting your question right, you are asking that if you tell another person, you are putting the child in trouble. Is that the case?
Yes, please.
I will invite Seidu to add a voice to this, because I know that sometimes when I'm the only one explaining, maybe my ideas might not come across
Yes,
clearly.
hello.
Please, can I come in?
Okay.
Who wants to come in? Let me take Seidu and then I can allow someone to come in.
Okay. I think it depends on who you tell. Okay, so the issues depends. What all that we are saying is that you don't assure the child that I'm not going to tell anyone, because that is the condition of which some people tell you their problem. I'm going to tell you this, please don't tell anyone. And if you accept on that condition, it's going to break some kind of trust, because it might get to a point you need to tell someone else. So you are telling the right person, not someone who will go and expose things or maybe create drama out of the situation again. Like Lawrence have said, if it needs that you speak to a police, you have to. It means that you speak to a chief, you have to. If it means that you speak to a religious leader, you have to. So we don't want you to assure the child from onset that I won't tell anyone. Then you get in the middle of the issue, you realize you have to tell someone, which will kind of break that trust. But from the beginning, let them know that I'm going to tell the right person who will also protect your interest and make sure that the case is handled in the rightful way. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia, I thought you wanted to say something. Someone came off mute and wanted to say something.
Yes, it was I. So I just want to add my voice. Sometimes telling the right person is actually a way to safeguard yourself. I'm saying this from an experience where I made an error. A learner actually confided in me, told me not to tell anyone about their case. I was trying my best possible to help them resolve the issue. But unfortunately, they did not keep their end of the bargain. They went confiding in their friends as well as others in the community. And it became an issue. Somebody else came to, should I say, inform my landlady about it. And my landlady now, I can't share the information because obviously it's a sensitive one. But my landlady now came to tell me that this is what is happening in the community. And if, I don't know how to put it, she now came to tell me that this was what was happening in the community. And if I didn't take care, this was what was going to happen. And then at that point, I now have to tell the guidance and counselor and everyone who is supposed to know. But if I had done that right from the onset, the story wouldn't have twisted along the line. So it's a chance to safeguard yourself as a point of contact. So it goes both ways. It's not only for the learner, it's also to safeguard yourself, because sometimes learners may not mean to, but they may twist stories along the way.
All right. Thank you very much, Cynthia. And I hope this point is clear. I hope this point is clear.
And then sometimes, hello.
Yeah, Franklin, make it brief.
And then some cases we have those who are trained to safeguard other vulnerable. So for person, it's not something that is going to put the child into certain danger. Rather, as we said, we create a fundamental idea that you can't do it completely as confidential. It gets to a certain point, you have to introduce somebody who's a professional in it. So it should be that system also there.
Awesome. Thank you, John Bosco. Make it brief because of time.
Yeah, the last one, please. I just want to be clear on this one about the confidential, the how to keep the issue as in a way a big secret. Should you assure the learner that you are not going to disclose his or her name as well?
No, I think the main point is that I mean, sometimes it depends on the level of communication. It depends on who you are talking to, right? But then, if the learner has come to you and has shared an information with you, and you are sharing with the right person, like maybe you are reviewing the safeguarding incident form. I'm not sure you can say you will not disclose their name. Okay, so that's why it's important that the principle is that talk to the right person, not everyone. You see, talk to the right person, not everyone. And because you are talking to the right person, that person can be trusted. And so when you even disclose the learner's name, it doesn't really cause any harm because you know the person you are disclosing the information to is the right person who can act on and for the best interest of the child in line with our safeguarding principles. Okay, so yeah, as for the information, you will share it, but then you assure the person that it's not going to be a complete, you will talk to the right person. It's not like I'll go and stand in the class and say that, hey, this is what someone has done to you. No, you just assure the person that you talk to the right person and whatever has happened won't happen again. All right. So the safeguarding incident report form will be shared. We are wrapping up. The safeguarding incident report form will be shared on the platform. But then basically, on this slide, we have just explained some key terminologies. So when we say a survivor, who is a survivor? When we say a suspected perpetrator, who is a suspected perpetrator? So here is just about clarifying, reviewing the safeguarding report form or the incident report form, I beg your pardon, and then knowing what each section means and establishing that understanding among yourself as a catalyst team. Then the keeping sports safe contact is something everyone must know. So here you just ensure that all of you know this contact. And then in line with the protocol, if you have reported a concern several times and it's not being acted upon, then as a catalyst, you must call this number in line with the protocol. So please refer to the safeguarding protocol, which should be posted at your spot by now, because we have sent that resource to you on a recent spot visit. Now, this is the plenary. So this is how you end the session. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's a powerful statement. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So this is how you wrap up the session after you have had all your discussion. So here you are going to do a culture of care, a collaborative Manila card brainstorming, and it's going to be a 10-minute activity. So this is how the activity works. You have a large Manila card, what is popularly known as the cardboard. You display that Manila card or flip charts in the center of your group. So if you are 10 catalysts or teachers, you gather around that Manila card, and then you write at the top what a culture of care means to us at Abofor, at Inkonya, at Agboledomi. Then you give markers to every participant in the training. Then, in no particular order, we don't want any particular order. Just take some time, reflect. The question is, what a culture of care means to us then you write your name at the spot. So every response or whatever you think, write your thoughts on that culture of care Manila card, okay, because it's a brainstorming session. So for example, a participant might write, a culture of care means using polite words when talking to learners. And here it is not about the learners, it is about yourselves as catalysts. This training is for you. It is not about the learners. So whatever discussion, you must center it around yourselves and the things you must do as a catalyst team to ensure that learners are cared for and catered for, and you have their best interest. Then once the card is filled, discuss what common themes or values you see emerging. So here, Franklin might write using polite words, Seidu might write using kind words, Cynthia might write being gentle on learners. So here you establish the patterns. And then you realize that once you're able to establish the connections, what are the similarities in your responses? You are able to identify how that relates to the common instances of abuse that you see at your spot. So if you do this activity well, it will actually tell you and help complement the common instances of abuse that you see, because the responses that will be generated would, to a large extent, reflect what people see as common instances of abuse and how they can actually rectify. So you see this as your action, action, the actionable steps that you must take and the values that you must embody as a team to be able to create a culture of care. And please note it, we are talking about culture. Culture is a way of life. What it means is that it's not a one-off event. It's something that you as catalysts must be conscious about. It's something that you must inculcate. It's something that you must be particular about. It's something that you must build with time. It doesn't happen as a one-off event. So that is it for this session. And at EduSpots, when we talk about culture of care, we are talking about emotional intelligence. We are talking about modeling desired behaviors. We are talking about open communication and active listening. Q&A, any questions? So here you take any questions, and then the facilitator responds, or you address the situation among yourselves. So key deliverables. At the end of September, we want you to share an image of the training session involving catalysts and, if applicable, other teachers at school-based sports. Please, we want you to be ambassadors. In fact, we want you to take this training to other teachers if it's a school-based sport. Most of us are head teachers, and you realize that this is a content that will transform your school. If as an EduSpots catalyst, you're able to negotiate with your head teacher to do this training, it will have a significant impact on your school and the culture in your school. Today, we have just seen or read about one student stabbing another student in a senior high school. And I'm not sure, you can just think of the implications this might have on EduSpots if we should report, or if the news, if the journalist, or if it should be all over the news that this is something that has taken place at our sport. It is likely the whole network can just be shut down because of, one negligence, one act of negligence. So please do well to ensure that this training is extended to all teachers in your school. You can even make it a circuit-wise training. If you speak to your circuit supervisor, we want you to be good ambassadors. And if you are doing it in-house, you can situate the conversation within the spot, okay? Then we want you to submit a photo of your collaborative brainstorming session. So this activity, that is a deliverable. We want you to share this Manila card brainstorming activity. We want you to take a picture and share it with us as a deliverable. Then you submit to your regional coordinator by the 30th of September, 2024. Thank you very much. So this is the last phase of our Keeping Sports Safe trainings, which we have held beginning July, August, and September. So we hope that you end on a good footing. Regarding the community safeguarding events, we know that for most of us, we've been on vacation and we've not been able to do it. But once schools resume, you have received a grant to do the community safeguarding event. Seidu has done a wonderful video, very insightful video. It is on the platform. If you are wondering what those pictures are, what those pictures are supposed to be used for, please watch the video and ensure that you are replicating same in your community safeguarding events. Thank you very much. At this point, I don't know if anyone has some closing remarks or any question to ask, and then we can bring this session to a close.
Hello.
Any question, any closing remark? Yes, please take it.
Yes, for EduSpots, I want to call all the teachers, including the head teachers, so that we can have the safeguarding training for all of them together. It is okay.
Yes, absolutely. We will thank you for that, because we want to have influence on the community. So if all the teachers will get involved, that is awesome. But then do well to also resort to your GES code of conduct, because most of the things we've discussed is in alignment with the GES code of conduct. So it's important that even at before the training, you sit as a facilitator. You can even ask some of the teachers to lead various sessions, and that's why we did this training. So you can orient some of the teachers and get them to take aspects of the training. Now you can tailor some of the content to be in line with GES policy, and then you can also look at areas where to be targeted at our activities directly related to EduSpots. I hope that helps.
Okay. Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you very
Any
much.
other reflection? Any other? Thank you, sir. Any other reflection? Any other question? RCs, any announcements if there are no questions?
Lawrence, I wanted to add that with especially to young folks' point, it's very important because I'm sure you shared that story about the secondary school in Accra that is having the incident of someone stabbing somebody. And so mostly, I think the confliction with school-based sports is that the question arises around whether or what happens when a teacher is not a catalyst of EduSpots. But you all agree with me that the conversations we are having are not about EduSpots alone. We are talking about safeguarding in general and how all our schools will be safe. And EduSpot has taken that lead in terms of helping our schools and our communities to ensure that there is safety at the center of all of it. So to Catalyst, you know what EduSport stands for, you know what we want to achieve. So when you are approaching your head teachers or when you are doing this Catalyst training, don't do it as an exclusive EduSport thing such that when a teacher is not part of it, they are not supposed to be involved. Go to your head teachers, ask for permission, just like a staff meeting, isn't it? So that you can have this deliberation, because if it hasn't happened to your school, that is different. But once it happens in the school, that is when you know that you all are in the same soup. So that is what I would say. Don't do it as an EduSport like those people who are.
Yeah, Kennedy, not to cut you short. I think they have professional learning circles on the GES timetable now.
Yes.
So we hope that they will use that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, RCs, any announcements, or we can just close this meeting? Any announcements? All right.
I think it's just a reminder that the deadline for the community engagement is on the 13th of this month. And since we are doing another training for Catalyst, it will be appropriate that we are able to plan well so we can do the community engagement earlier. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So thank you all. Monthly challenges will be launched. I'm sure some of them have been launched already for September. Schools are resuming, so please plan proactively, and we wish you the best when schools reopen. Thank you all for joining this evening session. And if you lack clarity on any of the on any aspect of the training, please do well to reach out. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to your regional coordinator, and we'll be happy to respond. We'll also share the recording to this training on the platform. So in case you want any teacher to support you to facilitate the session, please, you can ask them to watch this training, and I'm sure they would have a good understanding about how to go about it. So thank you all, and we look forward to your deliverables, and we wish you the best when schools resume. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.